Congress says the deficit is a crisis. At least that's what they say when the other team is in power. When they come back from their summer recess, Senator Joni Ernst is going to give them all a big Iowa-sized dose of put up or shut up. Last week, an opinion piece in the Financial Times reported that the federal government loses hundreds of billions of dollars a year to waste, fraud, and abuse, and pointed out several of the obstacles in the way to reforming that problem. Major culprits for such misspending are Medicare, Medicaid, pandemic-era relief programs. All of these things are riddled with fraud and abuse, in spite of the fact that a lot of people would rather you thought otherwise or just didn't look too hard. Now, the report shows that in spite of efforts to stop improper payments going all the way back to the Obama administration's do not pay list, the federal government has still spent more than $2 trillion on improper payments, about $162 billion per year. Now, part of the reason for that is that federal laws limiting data sharing between government agencies have prevented the kind of checks that need to happen from taking place. But as bad as the improper payments issue is, the fraud may even be worse. The Financial Times piece estimates as much as $500 billion a year in fraud, most of it going to hostile foreign governments and crime syndicates. Listeners to the Gross Domestic Problem podcast will remember our interview with Congressman William Timmons when he pointed out this very fact.
And you got organized crime that is getting government benefits. The amount of organized crime that gets unemployment insurance is insane. Because if you apply for unemployment insurance, assuming you have a name and a social security number, they'll send you the check immediately, your first check. $500. They send it to you immediately, and they deal with it later. But organized crime takes advantage of that.
This story just can't get more explosive. If you add that all together, you're looking at close to $700 billion a year in waste and fraud. And for those of you debtniks who are keeping track of these numbers at home, in a country where the annual deficit is near $2 trillion, that's about a third of it that you could deal with without harming a single constituent, except for maybe a few lobbyists. Now, a lot of solutions have been proposed in recent years to deal with this, data matching and interagency coordination, but reform is gridlocked by laws that limit their data sharing. This was the subject of President Trump's March executive order demanding that agencies begin to share that data. One of the great things that Elon Musk and his team of 20-year-old video game playing mercenaries did is that they created the digital substructure necessary for that data sharing to take place.
Elon Musk and his Doge teams took all transactions and drove them through Treasury, and they recoded them to where they're using the same coding language.
All that is missing is for Congress to say, nope, we're done with those laws. Joni Ernst from Iowa is sponsoring a bill to do just that, and echoes a bill that was sponsored last year by Gary Peters and 2 other Senate Democrats. Now, this is a time where Congress can make a massive difference to the fiscal trajectory of the country. So if they're serious about the national debt, you would expect that when they come back from recess, this would be high on their to-do list. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of GDPam. We'll see you Wednesday.